Hello, I'm Dan Bethell. I'm a member of the GB Para-badminton squad and a Tokyo 2020 hopeful, and this is my Q&A session for Wiltshire Council's Ask the Athlete series. I'm very happy to be working with Wiltshire Council on this. I'm a beneficiary of the Funding Future Olympian and Paralympians programme. I have been since its inception in 2012, and so I know firsthand the Wiltshire Council really care about elite athletes and elite sport and just generally getting everyone in the county as fit and healthy as possible. So I'm really pleased to be able to share my experiences and lessons that I've learned throughout my badminton career. So let's get going with the first question. The first question is from Sally Smithley, who's my auntie. How have you been managing your training during lockdown, and apart from physical fitness, are you practicing on court, and if not, when do you think you'll be able to train and compete again? Yes, so my training, for obvious reasons, is very disrupted at the moment. I'm not doing what I'm normally able to do when I'm at the National Training Centre in Sheffield. But I've got an amazing team that have devised a programme for me to get me as close to a normal training week as possible in these circumstances with the resources that I've got. So a lot of my training at the moment is I'm doing a lot of footwork training out in my garden, just doing badminton footwork with no nets, no shuttles or anything, just my footwork, doing a lot of shadow work to keep my badminton fitness up. I'm also doing a lot of wall hitting just to keep my reactions going with a shuttle. But a lot of my training at the moment is more gym based to try and keep me as strong as possible and maintain the strength that I had before this lockdown started. And I'm also doing a lot of physiotherapy routines. I have a long history of injuries, and due to my disability, I'm a bit tighter than a normal able-bodied person might be. So keeping my flexibility up is really important for me. So when I do go back to training in the National Centre full time, I minimise the risk of injuring myself. So that almost answers the second part of the question. I'm not currently practicing on court. When we'll be able to do this, I'm not 100% sure. We're following the government advice very closely, and at the moment we're unable to get into the centre to go and train on court, which is very understandable given the circumstances, and so we're just listening closely for the information and hopefully we'll be able to go back on court as soon as possible. It's very hard for me not being able to train on court. It's obviously my passion and what I love to be doing, so the sooner I can get back on court and doing what I love, the better. And also with competitions, we're waiting on information from the BWF, that's the Badminton World Federation, about the tournament calendar and when play is going to resume. Our next scheduled tournament is the European Championships in October. Whether that's going to go ahead, we're not sure. Hopefully it will do, because I really want to get back on court and competing as soon as possible. But we obviously have to be precautious. People's health is the most important thing at the end of the day. So we'll just follow the advice closely and hopefully we'll be back on court as soon as possible. The second question is from Paul Wenlock. I've played some tennis and I've been thinking about joining a badminton club. I have got hemiplegia CP. Do you have any advice? Well, Paul, this is a really nice question for me to answer, because I'm very much like you. I have a right-sided hemiplegia. And I started off as a tennis player before I got into badminton. It was my first love. My whole family are big racket sport players. My auntie and uncle were professional deaf tennis players and got to world number 1, world number 2. So we're a very racket sport centred family. But there was no Paralympic structure for people with my disability in tennis. There's only wheelchair tennis in the Paralympics. So I wanted to pursue a sport and I chose badminton. So it's a great sport to get into if you've got tennis as experience. You have good hand-eye coordination, which can be translated into the sport. And the best thing to do is to get involved in badminton is to go and find a club. I've been to so many in Wiltshire throughout my career. They're all very inclusive and will get you involved in the best way possible. So just explain your situation that you want to get involved, and hopefully you'll find a really nice club that where a coach will be able to adapt sessions and stuff. It is possible. Don't be put off by trying to go and find a disability badminton club. There are many of those out there and they're fantastic, but that's not the only way into badminton. So my advice would be to go and find a local club, go to some club nights and just get involved that way. To get involved more in the para-badminton scene, the best place to go is a website called EBAD, which stands for English Badminton Association for Disabled. It's a great source for para-badminton in England, and will give you lots of information about events and tournaments coming up. They can even give you advice on finding a club and help you with that. There's loads of great para-badminton events coming up in the near future, and I just encourage you to come along. Don't worry about your ability or anything like that. The biggest thing that got me hooked on para-badminton was the community feel within the sport. Everyone's just like a big family. They'll help you on court, off court, no questions asked. Everyone's got their own life experiences from dealing with their disability, so it's a really good bond we've all got between us, and you'll be welcomed with open arms. So I really do encourage you to get down to the next para-badminton event. I'd love to see you there and see you involved in para-badminton. And also make sure before you go to get involved with badminton, just go and check with your GP. Obviously people with disabilities are at a high risk of injury, so it's very important to go and just get checked out to minimise any sort of injury risk moving into badminton. It's a very explosive sport and dynamic, and there is the risk of injury there, so my advice would make sure you go to see a GP before you get involved. The third question is, what would you recommend teenagers do to keep physically fit during shutdown that is fun and could be done with minimum equipment in a room or garden space? That question is from Liz Miller. Yes, this is a very important thing at the moment. The government's really pushing for people to stay active during lockdown. Obviously, we're sitting around a bit more at home due to the lack of opportunities to go out. So my main advice, first off, is to go online. There's some great online resources, particularly the Active Wiltshire social media pages. They'll give you some really good activities to do during lockdown. You don't need a lot of space at all to get a really good workout. I've got a gym set up in my brother's room next door, which isn't a very big space at all, but I get a really good workout every day. You can simulate a gym session very easily, doing a lot more body weight stuff, so you can do lower body workouts like squats and jumps and lunges, or core workouts. You can do it doesn't have to be a long session. You can do a really hard workout in 10 to 15 minutes. So definitely go and find some of those sessions and get involved with them. A good way to do it as well is to find some of your mates and go on sites like Zoom and Skype and get a group chat going and do the workouts together. It's always a lot more fun working out with someone. You can have a bit of banter during the session, and it's a good way to get some extra motivation while doing it, and you'll find you'll work a lot harder and get a lot more out of the session. Yes, and the next question also from Liz is, what would you recommend for office workers to do at their desks as a brief work break to keep away niggles associated with long working hours working online? This is a very good question as well, because like we want to get the teenagers out and active. It's also true for people who are working. You might find that you're working a bit more, sitting around a bit more during the lockdown, so if you've got any sort of spare time during the day to have a quick work break, I'd recommend just turning off your screen. Working online and staring at screens all day can make you feel a lot more tired and can sometimes give you a headache, so it's really important to minimise that effect. So if you do got a chance, just make sure you get away from the screen. You can do things like going for a walk, going for a run, reading a book or something like that, just getting away from your desk for a while, and then hopefully you'll come back feeling refreshed and able to work really hard after your break. Okay, question number 5 is from Matt Pearson. You have competed all around the world, but which event/competition venue impressed you the most and why? Yes, I've been very fortunate to travel all the way around the world, from Canada to all across Asia and Europe, and I've been to some amazing competition venues and events, but the main one that sticks out for me was the World Championships last year in Basel. Not only was I able to win a silver medal, which is my greatest badminton achievement to date, but it was just a very cool tournament to be in, because it was the first time ever that the para-badminton world and the able-bodied world were competing at the same time. The able-bodied world championships were taking place in the same venue on the same week. So that was really cool, because we got to go and watch the able-bodied world championships while ours was going on, and we're all big fans of badminton in general, so to go and watch them was a fantastic experience, and we got to go backstage and have close interaction with the players. They came over to the para-badminton competition as well, and for the first time, it was the first time a lot of those players had seen para-badminton, so it gave our sport a lot of really good exposure, and we gained a lot more fans. So to be part of that, the first ever time that's happened, it was a privilege and amazing, and hopefully it will happen a lot more in the future. And question 6, which is also from Matt, is away from badminton, what are your other hobbies, sports, activities that I enjoy doing? This is a very good question, and when I do have breaks in my training, where I'm normally very busy throughout the whole week, I'm a big rugby fan. Growing up in the southwest and around Bath, there's lots of big rugby teams around here, so I love going to Bath Rugby with my dad and my brother. Mainly, we've got season tickets, so we try and go to as many matches as possible. Not always the easiest thing over recent years. Bath haven't had the success that all the fans would love them to have, but we live in hope, and we keep going to all the matches every week to see our team do well. Also, I'm a big Xbox fan. I've got my Xbox here, which is coming very handy during this lockdown period. I'm playing a bit too much, some would say, but it's something that I just enjoy doing, and it kills a lot of time. I'm a big fan of Call of Duty. That's my favourite game, and me and my teammates play it a lot, and it's a really good way to sort of escape from badminton and just relax and just do something a bit different. Okay, so question number 7 is, how have you rescheduled your training plan now that the Paralympics have been postponed? This is a very tricky question to answer at the moment during the current situation, because a lot of our training is based on the tournament calendar. So we'll have a set amount of weeks building up to a tournament, and we'll develop a training block building into that competition. But obviously we haven't got any competitions going on, so we're not 100% sure what it's going to be like. It was a big shock for us to hear that the Paralympics have been pushed back a year. We've been working up to this for years now, but in particular the last 6 months, the focus has really started to go on to the games, and when it was pushed back, it was a big shock to the system. So at the moment, we're focusing on getting through lockdown in the best shape possible and coming out the other end, and once lockdown is over, we'll have a meeting and see what the tournament calendar is going to look like building up to the games next year, and then we'll make a training plan in accordance. But at the moment, we're just trying to work as hard as we can, get as strong as we can, and become the best badminton players we can be in these uncertain times. And question number 8 is from the No Strings Badminton Group in Salisbury. I love the No Strings Badminton Initiative. I think it's a great programme from Badminton England to get as many players involved in badminton as possible. And their question is, in our usual badminton sessions, we enjoy playing around the world as a fun drill. Can you recommend any other fun drills we could play when we return from lockdown? I love playing around the world as well. It was a big game for me as a junior. It always got very competitive, and it was just a nice break from normal training to have a bit of fun. I think one game that we always played at my old training centre down in Bath, Pete Bush, the head coach there, came up with this, and it was one we all look forward to during training session. It's called Donkey, and it's similar to Around the World, but instead of running around the net, you're in 2 teams, and the first player hits a shot and then goes to the back of the queue of their team, and then the next player comes in and hits shuttle, and so on and so forth, and whoever makes the mistake is out. So that's always fun. To make it a team event, it becomes a lot more competitive, and everyone just enjoys doing it, and there's a lot of good competitive rivalry between the 2 teams, which is always good fun to do. Another one that me and my friends always play in Sheffield is 3v3. The name sort of gives it away. 3 players on each side, and it's a bit different to normal like badminton. The tactics are very different. It's very like you have to work out the best way to play with 3 people on the court and where to cover and the best way to win. And that's another game that gets very competitive, and it's a nice sort of one that's a bit different from a normal badminton game and really gets you thinking, and it does help you improve many aspects of your game. Question number 9 is, having won the Tokyo Test event, what do you think of the facilities of the Olympics and Paralympics? I think in a short answer, they're fantastic. Like, they're really, really good. We were lucky enough to get into our venue where the badminton is going to be staged. I think it was only opened like 3 or 4 weeks before we got in it, so everything was brand new. It was very clean, and like the organisers were faultless, from transport to the venue to getting players ready to go on to court to getting on court, and afterwards it was all amazing. Like, you can really see that Japan and Tokyo are excited to be hosting the Olympics and Paralympics. We were lucky enough to have interaction with some school kids who came into us, and they were studying about para-badminton, the Paralympics. So there's a really big passion for the games over there, and it was a fantastic event. Everything ran smoothly, and I really do think next year it is going to be the greatest show on earth, and it will be one of the best Olympics and Paralympics we've seen to date. Question number 10 is from David, from No Strings Badminton Group in Tidworth, so another No Strings initiative, and their question is: training takes a lot of commitment. What tips can you give us to keep motivated and achieve our goals? This is a very, very good question. Obviously, yeah, training and working hard is very important to meet your goals, but I think you need to keep doing the basics, to doing your shot practice and your footwork patterns to get those as good as they possibly can be. But obviously those sessions can be a bit boring and a bit monotonous, just hitting X amount of shuttles over the net or doing X amount of shadow movements and footwork patterns. I know that firsthand. I've done hundreds of them over the years. So the most important thing for me is to always, when you do those essential sessions which need to be done, make sure you put in some different sessions, some fun sessions, like playing around the world or doing 3v3 or having a match play session, just to mix it up and do different things. That really helps you just keep really engaged, because the more fun you have, the more committed you'll be to playing badminton, and the better you'll be. And always make sure that you do different things, work on different shots, constantly changing up your training and your drills that you're doing. Not only will this give you a break and give you something fresh to work on, it will make you a better all-round player, because you'll be working on loads of different aspects of your game instead of focusing on one or two things. And yeah, the important thing is also make sure you set short-term goals as well. Like, everyone has long-term goals. They want to make a county team or a club team or win a certain tournament, but those are often medium or long-term goals. So make sure you set short-term goals. These can be very simple things like getting a better net spin or getting a harder smash, but having those little things just gives you the extra bit of focus in your training, and it gives you a direction that you want to go in. And the more short-term goals you have and you achieve, when you finally get to your long-term goals and that big tournament or that big match, you'll be in the best position possible to achieve things and do what you want to do. So that concludes all the questions. Thank you very much for sending them in. I really enjoyed answering them and reflecting on what I've done in my badminton career, and I hope you take something out of my answers. And now it's something I've got a weekly challenge for you to do. So guys, my challenge for you this week is the coffee cup challenge. This has become very popular in the badminton world, with lots of players coming up with different varieties of it, but the premise of the challenge is very simple. You have to get a shuttlecock into the coffee cup in as few attempts as possible. It's a very simple challenge. You don't necessarily need those two bits of equipment. You can do it with tennis balls, socks, ping pong balls, and you don't need a coffee cup necessarily. You can do it into a dustbin or a bread bin or something like that, just trying to get the object into the other object in as few attempts as possible. And obviously the smaller the object to throw in and the smaller the object to throw, the harder the challenge will be. So here is my attempt at the badminton shuttlecock coffee cup challenge. Yes! So guys, that was my attempt at the coffee cup challenge. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with and seeing if you can beat my attempt. Thank you once again for sending in your questions and watching this video. I've really enjoyed receiving them and giving you an insight into my life as a professional athlete. And remember, at this time, please stay home, please stay safe, and if you need any support, please go and visit the Active Communities webpage that will hopefully give you information that will get you through this time. and also visit the Active Wiltshire web pages that will hopefully give you ideas to stay fit and healthy during lockdown. Next week on the RC Athlete series will be Winter Paralympic gold medalist Jennifer Cahill MBE. That's going to be a really good video by an athlete who has achieved so much in her career, and I'm really looking forward to listening to that video, so please send in your questions for her. And yeah, thank you once again, and goodbye.